These days, pet chickens entertain Jo and John Dwyer when they're not at work. And since they started Angel Valley Organic Farm, the only clock they watch is the ultimate timekeeper, the weather, to get their hand-grown organic food to eager customers on time for their Wednesday and Saturday markets. In 1995, they didn't live on a farm, but in a house in Jonestown, up the hill from a dream yet to happen. Then, in 1996, John decided it was time to take his business experience and their love of organic food beyond their backyard.
And that's how we've always eaten, probably since college days. We were art majors, and one of our art professors just drilled that into the students, which we appreciate. I mean, at the young age of 18, we were hearing about this. And as soon as you started gardening, it was always organic. Always organic. Started at the Austin Community Gardens.
And so in 95, I was thinking, what could we do? I'd already been an organic gardener for almost 20 years. What could I do? What could we do together? And I thought, maybe we could run an organic farm. So we started looking for property and thought we'd have to go east towards Granger.
Instead, they found the ideal spot just down the Limestone and Caliche Hill, a secret valley rich with alluvial soil, a legacy of what is now just a bordering creek.
And to see dirt a mile away from where we lived was just unbelievable.
The 15 acres is their birdwatcher's dream, too. But to keep deer from their crops, including the apple orchard, John's first job was putting up fences. They built their new house and its rainwater collection system, bought a tractor, and in '98 planted their first cover crops.
In '99, we sold our first vegetable.
But since a farm isn't a hobby, they applied their business experience to a new workflow. No longer could it be a backyard hit-or-miss adventure. This time, their seeds had to get to market on time. And now, organic gardening meant official certification and all its rules.
It was definitely a growing thing. We didn't know the first thing about farming when we went into business.
And it started smaller. We just had these 400-foot rows, and then the 200-foot rows back there that's like 3 acres.
3 acres.
Yeah, and now it's expanded to 6.
It's like going from harvesting a basket full of multi-vegetables to baskets full of single crops.
These days, they share the load with 4 other passionate gardeners. The days are still long, but as wise business managers, they knew they couldn't sustain 80-hour work weeks forever. Though now they harvest by the wheelbarrow load, their experience works for the home gardener.
You want to keep land sustainable, and I think it's difficult to crop after crop after crop. And this is what I often see what happens in home gardens is that what people do is they plant a spring garden, they follow it up with a fall garden, they go back in with a spring garden, they go back with a fall garden. And, I just don't think that you can continue, especially in the Texas environment where you have such extremes of the heat and breaking down organic matter and everything else. You just can't do it sustainably for a long period of time. You've got to give it a rest. So you got to get some diversity in there, get a little cover crop and some manure, compost in there and let it go for a season. We used to plant direct seed a lot more than what we direct seed now.
Yeah.
We direct seed very little. Green beans, carrots, turnips, beets and radishes is about it. Everything else gets started in the greenhouse. So we do soil blocks. It's a kind of a European method where you mix your soil and you wet it up and you make these blocks that we put in plastic flats that we use over and over again.
That's as opposed to using those cells, those trays with the little cells. We do this instead.
Other plants, like squash, get started in larger pots before they go to the field.
If we come out and try to direct seed, there's always patches and spots, and then you'll get a 3-inch rain that washes seed out, and you just end up with problems.
Once in the fields, row cover protects crops against cold spells from fall to late spring.
What we're doing is we're pushing seasons. That's all we do is push seasons. We try to have the earliest and we try to have the latest of every variety that we possibly can.
It also shields them from wind damage and especially insects.
You share. There's definitely sharing. But it does help. We have all of our broccoli, all of our brassicas and mustards under cover right now because of harlequin bugs in the spring. It saves them. A few sneak up in underneath there, but if we didn't have them covered, they would just be mutilated. The squash, you can only leave it on until it's flowering, so then, of course, it can be pollinated. And it'll keep the cucumber beetles off for the most part while the cover is on. Of course, as soon as it's uncovered, they find it immediately. But at least you're protecting it for a while. So you get a head start, and at least you'll have a crop for a while. And in the meantime, you're planting another crop, and it's covered. And by the time they ruin that one, this one should be coming on, if you time it perfectly, which we try to do, but don't always.
Our lettuce never sees the full light of the day until we uncover it to pick it, and then the row cover goes back on. We've got this row cover down to where we protect things.
He's the master of the
especially
row cover.
head lettuces, and then what you're doing is you're making sure that when you go to market with that head lettuce, it's beautiful, it's big. It hasn't been beat down by the wind. It hasn't been beat down by the rain. It's been under this row cover the entire time.
Protected from cucumber beetles and
Correct.
all the nasty stuff that makes them ugly. A home gardener wouldn't care so much, but we're taking them to market, so we want them to be stunning.
Along with appearance, things have to taste good. Jo and John constantly experiment, because a good performer still gets the boot if it doesn't taste good. Aside from the tractor for tilling, like home gardeners, no machine does the work.
It's all by hand. It's all intensive. It all takes much, much time.
They also nurture beehives to keep those employees around when drought hinders the natural food supply. And when the sun sets, they're still at work, including online, updating what's coming up at this week's markets, and Jo's stories about life on a farm. They're stories of resilience and optimism and the love of it all that keeps all gardeners sinking their hands into the earth.
I think time has helped with that. I think I shed a lot more tears at the beginning of the farm than I do now. Because, I remember the first hailstorm we got hit by. It was our first year, and everything was looking great. We had made the mistake of walking around saying everything just looks great, and that night we got hit by hail. Nothing was covered, because this was before we did all of this stuff, and it was just ruined. And of course, I was devastated. We were both devastated, sunk into depression for a while, and then learned that they do come back, and things are okay, and that you do keep going, and you keep planting. So now, when something like that happens, we think, well, okay, and we'll just move on, and what's next, and we're fine. And you can't let it drive you crazy. It's out of your control, so you can't let it drive you crazy.
Farming is a 12-month-a-year venture, and so every month there's something going on. So if you get a setback like that, things don't stop.
Okie dokie, shopping time.